The United Nations Security Council lauds regional Omani and Saudi efforts to achieve peace in Yemen. Government announces that a foreign yacht has entered national water and exchanged fire with Coast Guards. Houthi-linked financial entities trigger cash crisis in areas under Houthi control. Good evening. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. I'm Abir Ali and you're watching the English news. The United Nations Security Council discussed the Yemen crisis and lauded the recent Omani and Saudi efforts to achieve peace in Yemen. This came in a statement issued by the Council members. The following report has more details.
The members of the Security Council welcomed the recent visit to Sana'a by the Saudi Arabian and Omani delegations. In a statement, the Council hailed the Saudi-Omani ongoing support to the mediation efforts of the UN. These talks represented valuable steps towards a comprehensive ceasefire and inclusive Yemeni political talks under the auspices of the United Nations Special Envoy for Yemen, based on the agreed references and consistent with the relevant Security Council resolutions. The statement read, "The members of the Security Council also called on all Yemeni parties to continue dialogue, engage constructively in the peace process and negotiate in good faith." The Security Council stressed its members' continued strong support for efforts toward a political settlement and ultimately ending the suffering of the Yemeni people. Meanwhile, U.S. Envoy to Yemen, Tim Lunderking, stated that President Joe Biden is conducting an intensive diplomatic campaign to end the crisis in Yemen permanently. The senior U.S. diplomat spoke of real improvements in Yemen, indicating that plans are underway to guarantee that the present improvements endure. He noted that progress in continuing talks represents the best chance for peace in years. Lunderking was on a regional trip to promote efforts to secure a new accord for Yemen's comprehensive peace process. He said that the UN-sponsored truce, which began in April 2022 and concluded in October, resulted in a de-escalation on the ground. As a result, much of the development seen today was made possible. The fighting has mostly subsided and cross-border attacks have ceased. Thousands of lives have been saved during the longest stretch of peace since the beginning of the war. It has cleared the ground for serious communication between the parties and progress in trust building, as seen by the recent prisoner swap in early April between the government and Iran-backed Houthi forces.
The BRICS group affirmed its support for Yemen's sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity and political settlement of Yemen. This came in the final statement of the meeting of the BRICS Deputy Foreign Ministers and Special Envoy for the Middle East and North Africa region in Cape Town. The statement called on all parties to resume the truce and enter into comprehensive negotiation mediated by the United Nations. An explosive device exploded in a military vehicle south of Marib Governorate. Field sources confirmed that a number of resistance members stationed on the southern front in Marib survived as a military vehicle belonging to them was targeted. It reported that an explosive device exploded in Harib Junction, which led to its almost complete burning without recording any casualties. The Yemeni government announced that a flagless yacht has entered the national waters Friday. The guards of the boat exchanged fire with the Coast Guards and one soldier was reported to be killed. This report has more.
Armed private guards on board a renowned yacht previously owned by the late Welsh actor Richard Burton opened fire on approaching ships in the Gulf of Aden off the coast of Yemen on Friday. The guards accidentally opened fire on Yemeni Coast Guard members, according to officials, although the ship's manager insisted they shot at pirates. In a hail of gunfire, one Yemeni Coast Guard member was killed and another was injured. The guards are said to have fired up to 200 rounds of ammunition. The incident demonstrates the dangers that shippers and security forces face in the waters of the Arab world's poorest country, despite the fact that they are critical for global commerce. Hours after the tragedy, details on what happened to the Khalizma remain vague. The British military's United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations first described it as a gunshot attack near the border of Oman in Yemen's Far East. However, by Friday afternoon, the British military operation assisting ships across the Middle East described the attack in the Gulf of Aden as confirmed by authorities as government agency activity, without going into further detail. According to the Coast Guard, an armed security team on board the yacht then opened fire on the approaching Yemenis and attempted to escape perceived pirates. The Coast Guard reportedly returned fire and followed the yacht for approximately an hour until communications with the yacht could be established and the misunderstanding between the parties resolved. One Yemeni Coast Guard member was killed, and a later statement from the Yemeni Coast Guard posted online acknowledged the death. The Gulf of Aden is a crucial route for global trade and has seen attacks attributed to Yemen's Iranian-backed Houthi rebels during the country's years-long civil war.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced the evacuation of a second batch of Yemen nationals in Sudan. The ministry stated that work and coordination is continuing to complete the evacuation progress in the near future, noting that land trips were conducted to transport the first batch of arrivals. The ministry reiterated its appreciation for the efforts made by Saudi Arabia to evacuate the Yemenis. Many people have been impacted by the manipulation of exchange companies with the rate of the dollar. The most of those companies are associated with the Houthis. This report has more.
A Yemeni resident of Sana'a was informed by a currency exchange employee that due to a shortage of foreign currency liquidity, he would need to receive money from his brother in Yemeni riyals. He didn't realize what happened until he went to 4 separate stores. The citizen then became aware of an unannounced liquidity situation. He had to rely on friends' intervention with a currency exchange company after a week of waiting to get the transfer. The issue is not limited to a lack of liquid hard currency. It also affects the local currency, with all quantities lacking save 1,000 Yemeni riyals. Furthermore, the citizen stated that he has not been given an explanation as to why currency exchange companies reduced the rate of the US dollar from 600 Yemeni riyals to around 500 riyals. He noticed that the exchange stores buy the dollar at this really cheap rate, but refuse to sell it at the same cost. Economy sources in Sana'a confirmed that the so-called Economic Committee, a parallel group established by the Houthis for all financial and banking institutions and directed by Hassan Assadi, is helping to manipulate the US dollar exchange rate. According to sources, the genuine value of $1 is more than 1,200 Yemeni riyals, but the Houthi Committee, which controls the exchange sector and keeps traders' funds at the central bank branch, is imposing a different price. The Houthis' war has caused the Yemeni economy to collapse and most businesses to close. As a result, the vast majority of Yemeni families rely on remnants from Yemeni expats, particularly the 3 million Yemenis who work in Saudi Arabia. Many families have been affected by the manipulation of the dollar rate by exchange companies, in collaboration with the Houthis. According to sources, the purpose is to take as much hard cash from the public as possible ahead of a hypothetical peace stage, where analysis estimate the dollar price to double in Houthi-controlled areas, where the current price is regarded to be artificially low.
Coming up in the news. The United States returns 3 looted antiquities to Yemen. Welcome back. Yemeni artifacts and antiquities remain a subject of looting since the Houthis seized the capital Sana'a in 2014. As part of supporting Yemen get back its looted heritage, the U.S. announced it has repatriated 3 antiquities to Yemen. The following report has more details.
As part of a criminal investigation into a Manhattan-based private collector, New York will restore 3 antiques worth $725,000 to the people of Yemen. The antiques, which included an alabaster ram from the 5th century BC, plundered during the Yemeni Civil War in 1994, were seized from Shelby White's Manhattan flat, a Board of Trustees member of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Yemeni artifacts will be temporarily displayed at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington until Yemeni officials can securely return them. The artifacts were delivered to the Yemeni embassy in Washington after being captured by New York City security. They included a statue of a Yemeni ibex from the 5th century BC, an alabaster figure of a woman from the 2nd century BC, an antique silver plate from the 3rd century AD, and other artifacts were discovered. The ambassador of Yemen, Mohammed Al-Hadrami, praised the efforts of the U.S. authorities in seizing the looted artifacts and returning them to the Yemeni government during the ceremony, which was held at the U.S. Attorney General office in New York in the presence of several U.S. officials. He emphasized that due to the brutal Houthi takeover of the government and its institutions, Yemen's heritage and antiquities have been always subjected to significant theft and looting. He noted that a number of Yemeni museums have previously been robbed by terrorist groups and that the Yemeni authorities are doing everything they can to prevent smuggling and antiquities looting. He explained that the Yemeni government decided to add these antiquities to the previous ones loaned to the famous Smithsonian Museum in the heart of the U.S. capital, Washington, in light of the current situation caused by the Houthi coup and in order to promote Yemeni heritage in American circles. The Yemeni government is currently working to complete procedures for signing an agreement of understanding with the U.S. government to impose import restrictions on stolen Yemeni antiquities for a 5-year period under the 1970 UNESCO Convention on the measures to be taken to prohibit and prevent the import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property, which will contribute to strengthening efforts to protect heritage. Extensive investigations and rising demand to return cultural artifacts to their countries of origin have resulted in a number of high-profile repatriation projects in recent years.
Hafez al-Suwairi organized the Shibwani Folk Games, which fall on the 8th of Shawwal every year. The festival started from the entrance of the city, passing through the main street of the schoolyard, with the participation of a number of amateurs and lovers of this type of folk dance. The activities continued with a poetry evening, in which a number of popular poets participated with their improvised poems. Yemen participated in the activities of the official announcement of the launch of International Alliance for the Protection of Cultural Heritage in Asia. In Yemen's speech to the conference, the Undersecretary of the Ministry of Culture stressed the importance of cultural heritage in embodying the identity of the peoples. She added that the living monuments and historical monuments testify to coexistence and tolerance in Yemen. Yemeni runner Abdullah Al-Yari won the gold medal at the West Asian Athletic Championships in Qatar in the men's 800-meter race. The Omani Hossein Mahmoud Al-Farisi came in second place, achieving the silver medal, while the Qatari runner won the bronze medal in the third place. And the fourth edition of the West Asian Athletics Championship for Men and Women Qatar 2023 kicked off in Doha with the participation of athletes from Yemen. The World Health Organization said children in Yemen have the right to be vaccinated and stay healthy. They also advised Yemenis to protect their children and give them a healthy life through vaccination campaigns. The World Health Organization warned of increasing cases of polio in Yemen, especially in the Houthi-run areas. The rebels have prevented the vaccines of several epidemics from getting into cities, risking the lives of millions of children. This report has more.
The World Health Organization held the Houthi militia responsible for the spread of polio outbreaks in areas it controls, after it had been eradicated globally due to the cessation of immunization operations in Houthi-controlled areas, which led to the continued outbreak of polio and other vaccine-preventable diseases, specifically measles and diphtheria. The organization expected an increase in cases of poliovirus infection in Yemen, with the continued obstacles imposed by the Houthi militia on vaccination campaigns in the areas it controls, and its effects on all regions of Yemen. Since 2021, 228 children have been paralyzed in Yemen due to the ongoing polio outbreak, as the organization said in a recent statement. The number of cases of poliovirus is expected to increase in Yemen, which has been eradicated in almost all parts of the world, and global eradication is within reach. The statement pointed out that Yemen's already fragile and overburdened health system, coupled with suboptimal population immunity against vaccine-preventable diseases, increases the potential for disease outbreaks. The organization stated that since the confirmation of the circulating alternative poliovirus outbreak in November 2021, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative has not been able to reach children from house to house in the northern governorates of Yemen. As a result, the polio outbreak continued in these areas and even spread to other countries in the region, reaching 86%, and 197 of whom are from the northern governorates. Yemen is currently experiencing outbreaks of poliovirus type 1 and type 2, as the Global Polio Eradication Initiative warns of polio outbreaks in areas especially which are under the Houthi militia control.
Here is a reminder of the main headlines. The United Nations Security Council lauds regional Omani and Saudi efforts to achieve peace in Yemen. Government announces that a foreign yacht has international waters and exchanged fire with the Coast Guards. Houthi-linked financial entities triggered cash crisis in areas under Houthi control. This is the end of the news. It was Abir Ali, and thank you for watching.